Welcome to the Early Edge College Football Pick Show presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. I am your host, Mackenzie Brooks. I will be joined by the best in the biz talking college football best bets for Week 8. I literally cannot believe we're saying that right now. We got a new little schedule for the show here. We got a full hour. We're going to rip through the Power 4 conferences. Then we're going to hit some underdog bets as well. So we're going to get right into it. We're not going to waste your time. We know you've heard enough about James Franklin and all of these storylines ahead of this week. So let's just get into our best bets. Time to bring in the real stars of the show here. Mike McClure, Tom Casale, Emory Hunt. Gentlemen, always a pleasure to be with you on these Wednesday afternoons. I'm just going to get right into it. Let's start with the ACC, warm ourselves up a little bit. We got Friday night ball, Louisville headed to Miami. Miami 13.5-point favorites. Now this look-ahead line, for those keeping track at home, early look ahead was 7.5. Obviously Miami now the number 2 team in the country. Last year, let's just do our homework of last year, Miami won this game 52-45 at Louisville. Tom, I can't help but notice you do not think we're going to see that many points this year.
Yeah, I probably lean under here. Louisville hasn't played a very tough schedule. Miami's defense is legit. I think Louisville is one of the tougher teams to cap only because they've had an interesting early part of the season where they just haven't really faced many tough teams. And to me, this is all about if Miami shows up. If Miami shows up, nobody in the ACC is coming close. Not Louisville, not SMU. Those are average football teams. But I don't want to lay this number, so I'll lean under here.
All right, Mike, I see you're kind of on the under train here, but you're going to isolate a team total.
Yeah, going to isolate that Louisville team total under 18.5. The way I see this game, frankly, is like a 30-17, 31-17 kind of game, and that'd be a good outcome for Louisville in the spot. When I look at Miami, the major difference from them from a season ago is I think they're just drastically improved on the defensive side of the ball. You see some of these big totals. I think some of it's just being inflated by what you saw from this team last year. Yes, the offense is right back and producing even without Cam Ward, but it's the defense that I think is really improved, puts that offense in good field position quite a bit. But to me, it's just the key number being 17. I like the idea of Louisville being able to score 17 in this game and still going under their team total. I think their ceiling is probably 21 points here.
All right, fair enough. This Miami team obviously cruising along here. Emory, I think you're kind of taking a similar way, just going to take a different angle.
Yeah, I'm the type to hit on 20 because I don't care. I look at Miami and I look at that defense and I look at Miller Moss versus pressure. That defense alone will create enough separation for Miami's offense to cover this point spread. I like the score that Mike talked about, 31-17. Although it's a slight cover for Miami, I feel like that's where we're going to be headed because this defense will steal away 3 or 4 possessions, and that's enough for Miami to cash those tickets in terms of laying these 13.5 points.
Fair enough. Just going to start us off here with the devil's advocate. I'm going to lay it with Louisville plus the 13.5. I think you either see at last, some type of little bit of a hiccup letdown spot with this Miami team, or you just see a backdoor cover in general. There's a lot of teams I like to bet on based off the need for style points. Miami's not one of them. I think you could see a version of this game where they just want to get in and get out. Obviously, they're so secured to probably make the ACC championship an at-large playoff bid, if you will, as well. I just feel like it's finally time for them to maybe just lay off the gas a little bit. So 2 different storylines here that I think could give us that Louisville plus the 13.5. Again, I think this Miami team would be happy just winning this game by a touchdown and a field goal. We can still get that plus 13.5 with us here. Let's move on to another game in the ACC. This is a very interesting one. Number 12, Georgia Tech, the Fighting Emory Hunts, going to Duke. Duke laying 1.5 at home. Now, what I will say, a strong trend that we've seen in seasons past, we've seen it come to life in this season with Cincinnati being Iowa State. You see these ranked teams go on the road against teams that aren't ranked, and these unranked teams are favored. And you get confused. You're saying, why is the unranked team favored versus a ranked team? And they're winning these games. Again, we saw it with Cincinnati, Iowa State. There's really strong trends dating back to seasons prior of this being the case. Seems like none of you are really wanting to rock with that trend here. Everyone feeling pretty confident about Georgia Tech. So, Emory, of course, we got to let you start us off here with the Georgia Tech train.
Yeah, unless, Haynes, Rocky Balboa King is not playing this ball game, there's no reason for me to even understand why they're underdogs, but let alone not going to win this game outright. So give me Georgia Tech straight up. I love that we saw that graphic where 1998 was the last time they started 4-0. That was Joe Hamilton, and that team had fantastic offense, and he was the shortest quarterback, just born a little bit too early. Otherwise, he would have been a first-round pick, but I like Haynes King. I like Georgia Tech. They'll win versus Duke.
Mike, we feeling the same way?
Yeah, look, it's one of those classic pay to find out spots. Like, it's a big game. It's a tough environment. I like the motivational spot for Georgia Tech, though. It's kind of a must-win game. You get through this one, you can comfortably drop that game at the end of the year to Georgia, likely still college football playoff bound, which I think is the key here for them. And what I think's happening on the Duke side, while they are a good team, I don't think they're a great team. I think they're propped up by the 2 road games in a row, scoring 38 against Syracuse on the road, 45 on the road at California. Like, those are good results, but when they played good competition this year, they got blown out by Illinois, lost to Tulane, giving up quite a few points. I just don't know if they can score enough here to beat Georgia Tech. So I would play Georgia Tech on the money line plus 120.
Tom, I'll let you just keep on the bandwagon before I come back the other way.
Yeah, I could see an argument for either side. I mean, in all honesty, if I was ranking games to bet this week, this one would be towards the bottom. It's probably going to be tied in the fourth quarter. I'll lean Georgia Tech only because they seem to be winning these games this year. You get those teams that sometimes they keep losing those close games, sometimes they keep winning them. And that's what we've seen from Georgia Tech. So I just think this is a really tough game to call because I agree with you, Mackenzie, about Duke being favored. That's got to raise a red flag with you. But just based on like what Mike said, on paper, looking at these two teams, I'll lean Georgia Tech.
These are fair points. I have, for one, been burnt by this trend before, so I'm just going to take Duke. I'm going to take them on the money line, the fact that we can still get a reasonable price for the money line here. I see what you're saying, Mike, about Illinois and, the other teams they've been able to beat up on. They forced 5 turnovers in that Illinois game. Like, I think that box score tells a little bit of a different story. If you were basing this spread off the past 3 conference games this team has played with Duke, they'd be like 7-point favorites. I mean, they not only are covering spreads in these conference games, they're annihilating the spread in these conference games. Obviously, Georgia Tech will be the toughest test in conference they've had. But I just think, again, with that weird, fishy trend, why is this team favored against a ranked Georgia Tech? I just don't like it. I think this is a spot where I trust the odds makers here, and I'm going to take Duke on the money line. All right, we've worked our way through some ACC. We're going to work our way through some Big Ten as well. But if you want to get all of the guys' bets, there is much more to see at SportsLine. Again, we're hitting the Big Ten next. Stick around, find out. Welcome back to the Early Edge College Football Pick Show presented by BetMGM. Mackenzie Brooks here, Mike McClure, Tom Casale, Emory Hunt. We have hit the ACC so far. We're going to keep working our way through the conferences, head over to the Big Ten where you see 3 marquee matchups going on here. Let's start with Washington, headed all the way to Michigan. Michigan laying 6.5 at home, looking to bounce back from that loss against USC. Total sitting at 50.5 right now. Interesting storylines here. Obviously, Michigan has been dominant at home versus unranked teams since 2021, 27-0. But you see Washington also 5-0 versus unranked teams this season. Both of these teams 2-1 in conference right now. Obviously, not too much to play for now that Michigan has lost to USC. Kind of puts them out of playoff contention here. Curious to see how you guys want to attack this game. Emory, I'll start with you.
Both teams have a lot of similarities. You talk about run game and defense. They have that, have talented quarterbacks, check on both of those accounts. But where the difference is, you can trust Washington's passing game a little bit more than Michigan's passing game, or willingness to want to throw the football in terms of allowing that to help you run game get into a groove. And you can always lean on the ground game. So I just feel like Washington's a little bit more balanced, and they got their big game out the way. It kind of froze up against Ohio State. I don't think they'll freeze up here against Michigan. I like them plus the points.
Gosh, I'm really just on the other side of everybody today. Listen, at BetMGM, you can find this line now at -5.5. Would I play this at 6.5 with Michigan? Probably not. I'm going to lean the Michigan side here and lay them with Michigan. I just feel like now we're in a less pressure situation. You're at home. Washington doesn't have the same run ability that USC had when they had healthy running backs here. I mean, their leading rusher is their quarterback. As you said, Emory, he's playing phenomenal football. I just feel like this might be a get-right spot, and if I can get that 5.5 with Michigan, I'm going to take that. But, Tom, I see you're more agreeing with Emory here.
Yeah, I see these teams being pretty close. So, 6.5, I think that's a bit high. Like you said, 5.5 is about right. I think 5.5, 6.5 is a little high for me. One of the things I would look at in this game is Bryce Underwood's home and road splits for passing are insane. At home, he's thrown for 235 in all 3 games. On the road, it's been 142, 105, 104, and 207. So I do think they allow him to do more things at home and try to protect him on the road. So maybe a Bryce Underwood over passing yards prop would be something to look at. But I do think this game will come down to the fourth quarter. So I'll take the 6.5.
Okay, maybe some live betting opportunity in this game as well. There's a few on the slate I like to pinpoint. This might be one of them. Mike, I see you're back to your normal ways here. We're going with that first quarter, getting in and getting out.
Yeah, give me the first quarter under here, Ken's. Under 10.5. Found that to be a friendly number. I don't think we're getting a touchdown and multiple field goals. So it comes down to essentially fading 2 touchdowns in the opening frame here. You look at what these teams do. They still run the football and play defense. It's a very early start time for Washington. 9 a.m. on the body clock when you're talking about a noon Eastern kickoff at Michigan. That part's appealing to me as well. Just having slow starts on both sides. If we find success in drives that end in touchdowns, I think they're again likely to take 6 to 8 minutes off the clock, meaning you're going to have to be perfect here to essentially get 2 touchdowns in this opening frame. So give me the under 10.5 here, minus 138.
Yep, we love a gross under sweat in the first quarter. That is why you are so sharp. Let's move on to Penn State. Sweet Penn State. Headed to Iowa. Iowa laying 2.5 at home. Penn State is now the only team in college football to not have covered a spread. They have not been underdogs versus an unranked team since 2016. They're 0-6 against the spread right now. Iowa 4-1-1. You got to be sick to be putting a lot of money on this game right now. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to give you the option. We're going to talk about it here. I'm going to start us off. I'm going to take Iowa in the first half to score over 9.5 points against this Penn State defense. Regardless if James Franklin is there or not, this Penn State defense does start slow. And then I start looking back at Iowa in these first halves, and have they been hitting this number? They have literally hit this number, this over 9.5, in every single game this season. A lot of those are 10. Would I be taking this at 10.5? No. You have to find that 9.5 because this is a number they continue to hit, and Lord knows what we're going to get with this Penn State team. Emory, you're doing the thing. You're doing the thing. Tell me what you're going to be betting on here.
We are in bizarro world, folks. You have Duke and Vanderbilt favored in games in conference versus very good football teams. My Raging Cajuns is not undefeated, and FAMU getting blown out in football. So nothing makes sense this year. So that's why when I look at this game, Penn State against Iowa, obviously logic will say, hey, Iowa should win this ball game, especially because Iowa at night. You don't want to schedule the Patriots would lose to Iowa at night. So I get it if everyone is taking Iowa. But we've seen this happen before. Head coach get fired, team galvanizes, finds some success, and they go out there and win in an impressive fashion. We see it with UCLA, and I think we'll see it here with Penn State over Iowa. I'm taking them plus the points.
You're a brave man, Emory Hunt. Braver than I. Braver than I. Tom, I see you're going to lean the other way.
Yeah, me and Emory for one of the few times have the exact opposite analysis of this game. I agree with the getting the bump from coaches most of the time. Here's my problem with it for Penn State. They were number 2 in the country. I always think, what if my son played for this team? What do those players really care about? Half probably care about the NFL and not getting hurt, and the other half are thinking about where they're going to play next year. That's my problem with it. I just don't think James Franklin is the only problem there. I think he was a big problem. I just don't know how focused and dedicated these guys are for the rest of the season. They came back to win a national championship. So that would be my only concern. I normally agree with Emory about the coaching bump. I think you got to have more guts than me to bet Penn State right now.
You want to talk about guts? Mike McClure is taking points between an Iowa football team and a head coachless Penn State. Mike, make your case.
Yeah, Kenzie, it's first quarter unders and Iowa overs in football. The things that truly make you sweat here. It's just the number. It's at 40.5 or 39.5. Either way, a 21-20 game gets us there. I kind of see this getting a little loose, though. I see 24-17 either direction here, which again still cashes an over in college football. That part's appealing to me. The way I could see it, though, as far as Penn State, are they going to come out motivated and come out ready to play? Maybe for about 6 minutes. If it goes well, they continue that. If it doesn't, they completely fold. Either way, though, I think we see some points put on the board in either scenario. If Penn State's having some success, I think it goes really well for them. And if they don't, I think they just completely quit defensively, and ultimately Iowa's able to do enough. So just around that key number, I thought it should have been sitting 41.5, but it's not. Give me the gross over here.
All right. I mean, it was going to be gross no matter what we were picking on this game, but I commend everybody for their picks here. We have not a lot of time. We're going to do a quick rapid fire. Number 20 USC headed to number 13 Notre Dame. Can't believe they're ranked as high as they are, but that's a story for a different time. Tom, I'm going to start with you. What's your Notre Dame play really quick?
I like Notre Dame minus 4.5 in the first half. I think they win easy.
Bang. Emory, same side?
USC was trying to get out of this game in the summer, so they don't want that physical discussion. Ladies, 8.5 with Notre Dame.
Mike, we are back on the team totals here.
Under 25.5 for USC. They're going to become one-dimensional. They will not run the football against Notre Dame. Too predictable. Under 25.5 team total.
I got a little clever with mine. I said instead of taking that Notre Dame money line, which is like minus 340, take Notre Dame to make the playoff right now at minus 158, because I think obviously they're going to make the playoff, but winning this game is a very large part of that. So that's kind of a different way to look at this game. If you think Notre Dame wins, you don't want to take those points, maybe just take the minus 158-ish for them to make the playoff instead. All right, we move on. We're going to move on to the Big 12 after this. If you are telling yourself you know what's going on in the Big 12, you're lying to yourself because no one knows what's happening there. It's all coming up. Best Bets next. Welcome to the Early Edge College Football Pick Show. We have gone through a few conferences. It's time to hit the Big 12 here. Now, I said you never really know what's going on in the Big 12. The one thing that is surefire and consistent is this undefeated Texas Tech team, number 7, headed to Arizona State. This team has given us no reason not to believe in them. They have not trailed for a single second this entire football season, which leads me to believe a lot of us are going to be on this Texas Tech side here. Mike, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to be on Texas Tech, but I'm going to elect to do it via the team total, Kens. The number is still 30.5. They have yet to score below this in a game this season. 31, still a very key number. I firmly believe their team total should be set 31.5, going over that number essentially every time until proven otherwise. We've seen that they can do it in the road environment, though. The game that I think opened everyone's eyes, I know we all bet them against Utah that day, but scoring like they did on the road at Utah in that environment, they're not afraid here of Arizona State. So I think they get to 31 regardless of the outcome of the spread.
Really like that way of looking at it. I can't believe we're getting a number like 30.5 still at this point in the season. Again, you just see this team absolutely dominating everybody in their path here. Arizona State might be in the same situation. Texas Tech is 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 road games. Something to be said there. Emory, you want to trail that trend?
Man, you saw that defensive output for the whole season so far for Texas Tech. No one has scored over 20 points against this newly paid Red Raiders defense. And offensively speaking, for Arizona State, unless we get a fully healthy, ready-to-go Sam Levitt, I can't trust anything that they put out there on the offensive side of the football that's going to match this defensive effort they're going to see from Texas Tech. So lay these points comfortably with the Red Raiders.
They need to make an NIL commercial with the defensive line of Texas Tech. Like, these are like the poster childs of NIL, this Texas Tech defense here. I'm on Texas Tech minus the 9.5. Again, I'm going to pay to find out until they tell me otherwise here. Tom, are you going to make this a clean sweep?
Yeah, I think in college football, we can talk about all these different things, but for me, it comes down to quarterbacks and in the trenches. I think there's a million 5-star receivers and running backs you can find out there. And you look at Texas Tech, they have 2 quarterbacks who can play. Their offensive line has been dominant, and their defensive front's the 3rd best I've seen all year behind Miami and Ohio State. So they have it. They have what I think the ingredients are to go really far in the college football playoffs. And I don't know how many of these Big 12 teams are going to play with them, because I'll tell you this, Utah is really good. and they smacked Utah around at home. So I'm with everybody else. I mean, we don't even know if Arizona State's starting quarterback's going to be there, so there's no way I can take them in this spot. I'll take the Red Raiders.
Yeah, maybe get that 9.5 while you can here with all those question marks at quarterback. Let's move on to that Utah team you're talking about. Number 23, Utah, laying 3.5, headed to BYU. Now, Utah has historically absolutely dominated this matchup here. They've won 9 of the last 11. They're 4-1 at BYU specifically in their last 5. They're also 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 games, which is a very interesting spot to be in. But it seems like we're all on this other side here. Tom, I'm going to go back to you here with BYU.
Yeah, for me, it's just the half, like the 3.5. I think it's going to be a tight game. You know, again, I think Utah is a very good team, but this is a rivalry. BYU is one of those teams that are kind of like Louisville. I don't have a really strong feel on them either way yet, but being at home in a rivalry game, if you can get the 3.5, I would lean BYU. 3 or under, I wouldn't touch it though.
Yeah, I think it's about the key number here, especially being at home too. And again, this is why we do this Wednesday at noons, hopefully to give you some value before these closing lines here. I'm with you on BYU plus a 3.5. They also have strong ATS trends. BYU 6-0 against the spread at home versus ranked teams, so something they're familiar at being successful with. Tom, I see you're in agreement with us too. Or, sorry, Mike.
Yes, in agreement, Ken's. It's pretty simple for me. It's Provo, Utah at night. Weird things happen in this building in night games. I just think that Utah is definitely the better team in a neutral site, or if the game were at Utah. The fact that it's not, though, there's a significant home field advantage for BYU. You're getting the hook here. I make this game a little closer to a pick 'em in this night game environment. So give me BYU plus 3.5.
Emory, are you going to make us some type of meme here? We're all going to have BYU at the bottom of the screen. Is that what's about to go on here?
You already know we all about the social media buzz here. So get the meme ready because I'm going with BYU as well. The hook is most important, but these are 2 outstanding coaches, Kyle Whittingham, Kalani Sitake on the other side. 2 of my favorite coaches in college football that get their teams ready to play. They are foundationally built up front. So this will be a rock fight. This will be probably go one of 2 ways, a high scoring game or a low scoring game, but it's going to be a tight game nonetheless. So that's why I'm taking BYU plus the points.
Okay, love to see it. That's a wrap on the Big 12 for us. We're going to hit more bets on the other side, but before that, you can get all of these guys' bets on SportsLine. As always, using the promo code WINNERS, you can get 60% off an annual plan. Again, all of our college football picks are on there on top of NFL, NBA starting, all of the sports that matter. Head to sportsline.com/join and get 60% off using the promo code WINNERS. We're moving down under to the SEC, where it just means more. Best bets for the SEC games coming up after this. Welcome back to the College Football Pick Show on Early Edge, presented by BetMGM. We got a lot going on in the SEC, gentlemen. We have 3 ranked-unranked matchups we're going to look at here. The SEC should be delivering for us this weekend. Let's start with number 10, LSU, headed to number 17, Vanderbilt. Now, both of these teams 5-1 right now. It does feel like we're on different paths, though, with this team. LSU kind of seeming disappointing. Garrett Nussmeier hasn't thrown for more than 300 yards, but they also can't really run the ball, so not a lot happening right now for them. Interesting spot for them. They're 2.5-point dogs on the road at Vandy. I'm going to start us off here because I've just been on about the same other side of all of you this entire show. I'm going to take LSU. I'm going to take the money line because we're getting plus money, and I think this is just a get-right spot. You've seen one end of the cowbell curve. I think we need to see the other at some point. This LSU team has to start putting up 30-plus point games. And the Vanderbilt team, who's allowing 30-plus point games more often than not this season, might just be the right spot to do it. I just feel like the world's going to be on Vandy right now, and I'm willing to take the LSU side. It's gross. I don't love it, but I feel like it's the right spot to be for me personally. Mike, I see you're kind of on the same side as me.
Yeah, leaning on the same direction, certainly. It's going to be LSU's team total over 23.5 here. I just think there are many paths to them putting 24 on the board, win or lose in this game. The concern I have with Vanderbilt is they've looked good at times. They didn't look super good against Alabama, allowed 30 points there. They allowed 35 points to Utah State. That is a problem to me against LSU. So I just think there are many paths to not mess with the spread or even the outcome of the game here and get to 24 on the side of LSU. I'm going to bet on that. So give me a team total 23.5 for LSU.
So we're betting a little bit against Mr. Diego Pavia here. I will say, though, he is 5-1 against the spread after a loss with Vandy. Now his against the spread record is very strong, even going past Vandy as well. But in the last 6 games with them, 5-1 against the spread, which doesn't bode well for me. But Emory, I'm just trying to help you out here.
Man, if LSU had Diego Pavia, they'll be favored in this ball game. Therein lies the reason why they are underdogs. Give me Vanderbilt to cover this spread. People underestimate how good Vandy is in the trenches. I think that's going to surprise some that watch this game. And when you look at how they're dominating up front, LSU's defense is great, but you have a punchless offense that can't run the football, that has a quarterback that's sort of a liability back there in the pocket versus All-American Diego Pavia and a Vanderbilt team that has now reached America's team status. This is a big show game for them, and I feel like they'll step up to the plate. And I want to see them ranked in that top 10 if they knock out LSU. The only reason why they hadn't been ranked that far is because people are still looking at this as Vanderbilt and not how they're playing out there on the field. I'm off my soapbox.
Let it be known, Emory Hunt is Team Vandy. Let's move on to a total here, Tom. Total sitting around 48.5. You look at LSU, they're 5-1 to the over so far this season. Vanderbilt 3-3, but you could maybe see this being lower scoring.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on this game, but all these LSU games against some FCS opponent or the FBS opponents have gone the same way. They've only scored more than 20 points once, and that was against Louisiana Tech. So I keep waiting for this offense to wake up. And now we're in mid-October. Now maybe this is the week. Maybe now at 48.5, the number is low enough where it does go over. But at this point, I just trust LSU's defense more than I trust their offense. So I'll lean under 48.5.
Yeah, you make a fair point. I mean, this team has been slightly disappointing. It doesn't feel like a 5-1 record, number 10 team in the country by any means here. But a few different ways to look at that game. Let's move on here to number 5 Ole Miss, headed to number 9 Georgia in Athens between the hedges. This spread shocked me. Even coming from a Georgia Bulldog, I was stunned by this. Georgia is laying 7.5 in this game right now, 8.5 if you shop around here. I'm not going to say my full opinion on this because I don't want to upset my alma mater. But I will say I am stunned by this spread. Mike, tell me why.
Yeah, look, I make the number anywhere between 4.5 and 6, depending on how aggressive I want to make some of the improvements that we've seen from Georgia. Georgia is far from the team that they've been in years past. They are, however, trending in the right direction, in my opinion. It's a big game for them, obviously, a home game, very difficult environment to go into. Still love the fact that it's not a night game, though. I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin can do enough here. I would be completely off of this if it were 6, which is exactly where I make it. But at 7.5, I just think Ole Miss does enough offensively that it would take a really big performance or a defensive score late for Georgia to cover the spread. So give me Ole Miss plus 7.5.
Yeah, can't argue you there. Ole Miss 3-0 against the spread versus top 10 teams so far and straight up in their last 3. Emory, you feeling the same way with Mike?
Absolutely, man. This was the game last year, folks remember, they kind of springboarded the Austin Simmons train because of how well he stepped in for Jackson Dart, who got knocked out in that ball game. Simmons went right down the field and scored. Dart came right back in the game and was able to play really well, and they upset Georgia. Now you have Trinidad Chambers out there playing really well, the former Ferris State quarterback. And now when you look at the defense, I think they're playing enough. They're playing complementary football with their offense. This is way too many points for a game that's going to feature a good back and forth because that's how Georgia has decided to play this year, keeping teams around, letting teams hang around. And Ole Miss will love that back and forth affair because they trust their offense in those situations. So I like them plus a points here against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously, they're looking for a little bit of a bounce back game, what they had against Washington State. This is the third meeting between Kirby and Lane recently. You see Georgia win that first game 52-17. Last year, Ole Miss wins it 28-10. That would definitely bode well for an Ole Miss cover. Tom, you agreeing?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what everybody said. I'm with Mike. I make the line 6. You look at Georgia in 3 of their SEC games, 3-point game with Tennessee, 3-point game with Alabama. Last week they win by 10, but that score is a little bit misleading. I can only assume the officials in that game got fired and we'll never see them again because that was just an abomination of an officiated game in that Georgia-Auburn game. But I think their defense right now, which I was concerned about earlier in the season, is a little bit better than their offense. So I could see this being kind of another grinder where Georgia pulls it out, but the 7.5 is key for me. If you can get that set over a touchdown, I would take Ole Miss.
Yeah, this is tough because I don't disagree with any of you. This Georgia defense by far has not been what it used to be in the past. I think we can all agree on that. And this offense cannot start fast to save their lives. Like, I feel like as a fan, I'm constantly sitting here. They're always getting themselves in a hole in that first half. With that said, I'm going to take the first half under 27.5. That feels like so many points for these big Kirby Smart games. I feel like they're always starting slow. If anything, Georgia's just going to allow Ole Miss to hit their team total over in the first half, but they won't actually hit their own team total over themselves. So that's the situation I'm seeing. I think there's a lot of ways. Either this defense does play better, and maybe they are improving, as Tom's saying. We still get a first half under here, but 27.5 feels like a lot of points for a game like this in the SEC. I think another way you could look at this game is Ole Miss first half money line, Georgia full game money line is probably another way to look at it. Just the way, again, these Kirby Smart Georgia games go against top teams. That's all I have to say for that one. Let's move on to another big rivalry. Number 5, Tennessee headed to number 6, Alabama. Alabama laying 8.5 right now. And you're looking at Bama, who's 5-1 straight up and against the spread. Obviously, after that FSU loss, they've just been on a curb stomping endeavor since then. Ty Simpson looking like one of the best quarterbacks in my opinion. Tom, let's start with you here. You're liking this Alabama offense.
Yeah, Ty Simpson should look like one of the best quarterbacks on Saturday. I don't know how the who's gonna cover it, but I just don't see a scenario where Tennessee stops this offense. I mean, you look at they've been without their 2 top corners all season. That's really hurt them. They rank 119th against the pass, giving up 277 a game. 31 to Arkansas, 34 to Mississippi State, 44 to Georgia. They even gave up 24 to UAB. So I think Tennessee's offense is good enough to keep them in this game, but I just see Alabama scoring a ton here. So I'll go over 34.5.
Yeah, I lean the Alabama side myself, just looking at Tennessee on the road, even going back to last year. Like Tennessee at home at a plus 28 point differential, plus 3 on the road here. They've played one road game against Mississippi State. We all know how that went, kind of disgusting overtime game. The early look ahead of this game, was Bama minus 12.5. I think Tennessee and Joey Aguilar are getting a little too much flowers for what they did earlier in the season. But I'm going to isolate this to the first quarter here because I like the way Bama has started here, and you can get them first quarter minus 2.5. I'm willing to bet they're up 7-0. I'm also willing to bet they're up 3-0. I don't think this Tennessee offense on the road in another SEC road game will be able to start fast. So I like that first quarter there, make my money quick, and get out of there. Mike, I see you're going to make an argument here for the Tennessee side.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to tell you, Ken, I don't love it. I've been on Bama the last couple of weeks and unfortunately didn't get the cover with them. Took the push last week late with what Mizzou was able to do, but been very impressed with them. I still thought we would have seen this number at 6.5 personally. At 8.5, I just think Tennessee is good enough offensively in a high-scoring game. We can get that backdoor cover situation here. I would set this line right at 7, right at the full touchdown, or again, 6.5. So at 8.5, where 8 becomes a pretty key number, I would be on the Tennessee side, but will be the first to tell you this one will not make my card this week.
Fair enough. Sometimes you just got to help the people out with a little sprinkle. Emory, how confident are you feeling this Tennessee plus the 8.5? Is this making your card?
Very much confident because this is the type of game that Tennessee wants to play. We know their defense is going to give up some big plays in the passing game. Cool. That means the offense gets the ball right back, right? And we know their offense is where they hang their hats. And this type of offense has given historically Alabama some problems. And now what we saw last week against Arkansas kind of gives me an idea that they're going to utilize that a little bit more so in this particular matchup versus Bama. We saw Joey Aguilar be a bit more judicious in taking off and running the football. That opens up the entire field now for Tennessee. I think that'll be an issue. We'll see this go back and forth. Alabama may win the game, but Tennessee will definitely keep this one within a single possession.
Yeah, definitely a lot of points here. You notice none of us are on Alabama to actually cover the full 8.5. Tom going with the team total. I'm going with that first quarter spread there as well. All right, let's wrap this up. We've gone through a lot of these marquee matchups. It's time to hit our best bets and underdogs of the week. A few more games coming at you after this. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the Early Edge College Football Pick Show. We have worked our way through the big conferences here and big games. Now it's time to hit our best bets of the weekend of the Week 8 slate. Again, can't believe we're saying that, but let's take a quick look back at last week's best bets. Again, each of the gentlemen giving 2 bets here. Emory goes 1-1, moves to 500 on the season on the best bets. Mike goes 1-0 and a push here, moves to 7-6. And Tom 0-2, 4-10. But you know what? This is when you buy in on Mr. Tom Casale. And also, may I add, as I add every single week, these guys are putting out a plethora of picks on SportsLine here. These are just 2 of the picks we're picking. So make sure you're subscribed to SportsLine, you're getting all our picks, and we'll move on from there. Emory, I always love when you give me kind of a weird play here, and I'm glad I'm getting to see it in your best bets here. Why don't you start us off with your top 2 plays of the week?
Yeah, Temple taking on Charlotte. Fantastic trip for Temple to go down to Charlotte. Fantastic city. And while they're there, they'll play a football exhibition against the 49ers. Lay the 11.5 points with Temple. A very good offense. I love what Casey Keeler has done in just short notice up there in Philadelphia. So I like them to lay these points against Charlotte. And then the other one, Missouri taking on Auburn. I cannot trust Auburn week to week, game to game, drive to drive offensively. I can trust Missouri's defense, and I can also trust their offense versus Auburn. So lay this short 1.5 with the Tigers.
Fair enough. You know what? Anytime I can fade this Auburn team, I'm absolutely going to do it. Mike, I see you're bringing us right back to the SEC. I think you did this last week as well. So take us back to where it just means more.
Yeah, it just means more in the SEC. We're looking for more points here, Kens. We'll start with LSU's team total over 23.5. I'm not going to get in the way of picking a winner between LSU and Vandy. I think we get a back and forth game, but I think there are many scenarios, win or lose, that LSU reaches 24 points in this game. If Vandy's having a ton of success offensively, that puts this team in a hurry up mode. It puts them in that trailing game script where I think they could ultimately put up points. So it really is just betting on the overall talent on the LSU team. This is a spot where they would routinely have a team total around 27.5. So give me 23.5 over that number for LSU. And then Ole Miss, I'm going to their team total here against Georgia, over 22.5, looking for the 23rd point. That is an appealing number to me. There are 2 ways this game can go. It can be a rock fight. They can still get there, or we get the ultra high scoring game where Ole Miss is knocking on the door of this number in the first half of this game. So every year Ole Miss has one real ugly flat spot. Last year was at home against Kentucky. They scored 17. The year before they only put up 10 points against Bama. I think they got that out of the way last week in their look ahead spot. They were 32.5 point favorites, only scored 24 points at home in that game. Think they were clearly looking ahead to this one. Give me the team total here over 22.5 for Ole Miss.
I do like it, Mike. I will say I do like it. I always love Ole Miss team total overs, and I'm just going to have to agree with you here. Tom, take us to Notre Dame, because we kind of had to breeze over that game a little bit, but I want to hear more about Notre Dame in this first half.
Yeah, I mean, I like the spot for Notre Dame. The line's a little high because of some USC injuries. I was hoping to get it around 7, but it's 9.5. So I'm going to attack the first half, Notre Dame -4.5. I think they start out fast at home. I mean, I could see them winning this game kind of easily, and then I'll take the sucker bet of the week with Ole Miss +7.5. The way I'm going, Mackenzie, I heard you saying off camera that you can't understand why this spread is 7.5. Well, you probably got a good chance that Georgia is going to win this game 38-10 now. But I just, as we mentioned before, I feel like the number should be closer to 6. I think there's too much of an overreaction from last week. I kind of throw throw those games out because it's obvious if Ole Miss played Washington State for the national championship, they'd win by 50. So they weren't there mentally. We'll see if they show up this week.
It is something special, that spread there. I will tell you, it is keeping me up at night, but I cannot argue you guys here. Let's take one more look at the best bets for the guys for Week 8. Mike is on LSU team total over 23.5, as well as Ole Miss team total over 22.5. Emory is on Missouri minus the 1.5 versus Auburn, and Temple having some fun in Charlotte minus 11.5. Tom is on Notre Dame first half against USC here, and Ole Miss plus the 7.5. Let's move on to some underdog bets of the week. We must shout out our guy Mike for hitting the UCLA outright underdog last week against Michigan State. That was a pretty ticket. Now I'm looking at your guys' bets for this week, and it's just you guys saying, hey, how can we passively tell Ken to kick rocks about her own team again? So Mike, lay it on me with Ole Miss one more time for the people in the back.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's Ole Miss here. They were clearly looking ahead from last week. And when do I want to back Lane Kiffin? It's when you've got a little motivation. And how about the bulletin board material? We saw how that worked out with LSU. This week, he's now talking about Kirby Smart and essentially burning calories or not burning calories. I just think this is a spot they have to come in. Now, I drastically prefer the team total over 22.5, but I think they've got the skill set this season to upset a weaker than normal Georgia defense. Give me Ole Miss here plus 235.
You got to respect the one-liners from Lane Kiffin, I will say. I mean, coming at Kirby Smart and calories is an all-time line. But that's bulletin board material for the other locker room. But you know what? That's not my battle to fight right now. Tom, you are agreeing with Mike.
Yeah, when I take an upset, I want a team that's going to be there in the fourth quarter. Last week I took Air Force and I said, it's probably whoever scores last. Well, Air Force scored with 50 seconds left and they didn't have the ball last, and UNLV scored in the final seconds. But that's the kind of game I'm looking at. I just want a team to be able to be in the fourth quarter with a chance to win. And I think this game's going to be tight. It's going to be a close, hard-fought SEC game. So I think Ole Miss will have a shot in the fourth quarter, so I'll take them outright.
Whatever, man. Whatever. It is what it is. I think the spread is so gross, as you said, Tom. You guys are all going to be on this public side, and Georgia is going to spank them. I'm just telling myself that because I want to. Emory, I see you have done a little something creative for us here. Maybe a little two-legger that gets us to the plus 150 or higher.
Right, because my heart was about to add it to be a three-legger with my Cajuns taking on Southern Miss. I just hope that happens. Knock out Southern Miss for us, Cajuns, so we can have another fun weekend. Shout out to Lunch Winfield, once again, putting together a masterful performance out there at quarterback. So I took two games and combined them. Arizona knocking off Houston. Now, I like the way the Wildcats are playing football this year. Noah Fafita has been actually really good this season. Bounce back year for him. And also, this is an underrated game, a great game of the weekend. Maryland taking on UCLA. I told you guys ad nauseum about me and Malik Washington, how I saw his game as a sophomore, said he'll be great. I'm right once again, as I am always. But I like the fact that we're getting a highly powered UCLA offense coming in. Maryland, tough break last weekend, bounce back game for them. This will be a high scoring game. I like the Terrapins to get this one done, and you get a nice parlay between these two upsets.
Yeah, I really like that Maryland team. Maybe I commend everything UCLA has done here, but maybe it's time to fade them after their past two games. I'm going to go with a really gross play. I'm going back to the Ponies like a bad habit against Clemson. I think SMU does have a chance to upset Clemson. This team is so much more talented than they've been playing. I think Kevin Jennings, honestly, he's had 13 passing touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Like, he's kind of putting up his end of the bargain, but I just think we're able to see more. And any version of fading this Clemson team, I'm just going to take one more shot at it. And at plus 250, the Ponies can get it done against Clemson, in my opinion. All right, I think that's all we have time for today. Gentlemen, thank you so much again for watching. We are always here 12 o'clock on Wednesdays giving out our best college football plays. And if you want to see more from myself, from Emory, from Tom, from Mike, you can always join SportsLine as a member. You can also listen to us on the Early Edge podcast, also streaming on SportsLine YouTube. Scan that QR code or listen on Apple or Spotify. Thanks so much for joining us. The Early Edge College Football Pick Show presented by BetMGM.